Hi everyone, I'm Not Whelm, and this is Post-Trauma, the story explained. Today we're stepping into the unsettling reality of Post-Trauma, a newer survival horror game from Red Soul Games and Raw Fury that wears its classic inspiration like Silent Hill and Resident Evil on its sleeve, but it carves out its own unique, nightmarish path. We follow Roman, a middle-aged train conductor who finds himself trapped in a twisted dimension known as the Gloom after a severe panic attack. This place seems to be a disturbing reflection of his own mind. It's a complex, often ambiguous journey, but let's try to piece together what happens to Roman in this psychological horror experience. Before we properly meet Roman, the game opens with a jarring first-person cutscene, where seemingly someone named Carlos, holding a gun, another voice called Monster in the dialogue begs, "No, please." Carlos simply says, "No," again, and fires. With that cryptic intro, we fade to black. Then we wake up as Roman on a train stopped in a decaying subway station. Immediately things are wrong. Mannequins are everywhere, often in disturbing poses, alongside actual dead bodies. Strange, fleshy veins seem to be consuming the station, and a mysterious red eye symbol appears frequently, making Roman feel watched, lost, and confused. Early on, Roman must solve classic survival horror puzzles, figuring out lock combinations and restoring power via a generator. After finding a crowbar and seeing the horrific state of the bodies, he encounters something vaguely human. As he approaches asking for help, he realizes it's not human and presumably deals with it. The station feels consumed by the fleshy growth, and escape seems impossible. Even when an exit door is found, it needs a code. After restoring power, an employee keycard community drops, allowing access to the subway's security room. Inside, monitors flicker, followed by static. Suddenly, a woman's voice comes from the monitor.
"Hush, little baby, don't you cry."
Roman asks for help, explaining he's trapped and needs a code to a nearby exit door. The voice cryptically says, "We all need help. Do we deserve it though?" But then provides the code, 33284, stating she was supposed to give it to him anyways. She introduces herself as Jill. Thankful but confused, Roman heads for the exit. As he crosses the subway tracks to reach the door, a train barrels towards him at full speed, its headlights engulfing the screen in white. Suddenly, we're no longer Roman. We wake up in first person, our voice different. We are now Carlos, the man from the opening cutscene. He wakes up panicking in a flooded interrogation room within a police headquarters.
No, not like this.
This isn't real. He doesn't know how we got here or why it's flooded. The station is empty, eerily silent except for splashing and growling from the water below. Exploring reveals a desk Carlos recognizes as his own. Filled with files, he meticulously organized, suggesting that he worked here. The goal becomes finding a crank in the evidence locker to open the exit door, which requires the chief's keycard, all while avoiding a monster lurking in the flooded lower level. After solving puzzles involving colored darts to get keypad codes and keys, Carlos gets the crank. As he opens the exit door, we get a cutscene where Carlos seems to talk to himself.
Leave me alone, please. I said sorry.
Before shutting the door behind him, he walks down a flooded hallway towards a red exit door, but upon entering, he finds himself right back in the same interrogation room.
No!
The screen fades after a montage ending with the red eye symbol. And we're back as Roman, waking suddenly on a hospital bed in a hallway. This place looks old, chaotic, and abandoned. Exploring leads to the hospital's archives, where an email from nurse Hayashi Yumi provides crucial clues. It mentions the ER being over capacity from a crash on the North Road, patients piled in halls, and one unique patient, a woman found sleepwalking with keys embedded in her skull. Her sister, found to be pregnant, likely first trimester, didn't survive the crash. Following these clues, Roman finds the bathroom mentioned in the email. Inside a stall sits the woman, or rather a bloodied mannequin resembling her. He retrieves the keys embedded in her hair. He unlocks the emergency consultation room. On the way, he faces a new creature, a grotesque, two-legged horror with multiple arms and a round body that emits a monstrous cry like a baby's after being defeated. Inside the consultation room, a phone rings near the red-eyed symbol. It's Jill again.
I used to be Jill.
She says, her tone now cold and angry. As Roman tries to understand, he fails to notice the pale man, Carlos, watching him through the window before walking away. To progress past flesh blocking a door, he must solve a puzzle involving mixing AB blood with monster flesh cut from an operating room to create acid. Behind the dissolved barrier lies a derailed train car and a body on a hospital bed covered in flesh. As he approaches, a horrifying spider-like creature with a human head descends from the ceiling. It's Jill.
Get out!
Roman recognizes her voice. When he asks about the body, Jill furiously accuses him.
Blood on your hands. Intent is no comfort. Not for a corpse.
Roman looks at his hands, a dawning horror on his face as realization hits. He is responsible for something terrible.
I wasn't thinking that. I didn't mean to.
As Roman recovers, he sees Carlos walking away. He follows him towards another flesh portal. Roman confronts him, asking if he's human. Carlos denies it and tries to leave through the portal. Roman pleads not to be abandoned, asking if this place is hell. Carlos just scoffs.
Hell would have meaning. This is just us and our gloom.
And vanishes. Roman jumps in after him. He emerges not into more gloom, but into daylight, grass, and trees. A stark contrast. He finds a bench dedicated to the memory of a little girl named Helen, pictured in a school uniform, surrounded by toys and flowers. He approaches the nearby school and spots another person, a teenage girl. He calls out asking if she's Helen. The girl types on her phone, "You don't belong here," just as a monster grabs her and drags her inside. Dropping the phone, Roman picks it up and follows her into the school. Inside, lights flicker, revealing a tall, dark figure momentarily. Roman searches for the girl, navigating the school and solving numerous intricate puzzles, involving color sequences, clocks, which unlocks a shotgun, miniature planets, and a church door combination. He encounters more disturbing mannequin scenes, a girl crying blood on a toilet, and a scene implying assault, another mannequin spying from the window, possibly hinting at Helen's fate. He reaches the chapel, finding another portal and the girl returning her phone. She reveals her name is Freya and warns him he'll die here. As Roman observes a chain spear on the altar, a giant statue animates, attacks him, and wields the spear. Roman fights back, but is overpowered. Just as the statue is about to finish him, a huge demonic hand reaches down and drags the statue away, leaving the broken spear/sword, and Roman collapses. We switch to playing as Freya. She needs smelling salts from the nurse's office to wake Roman. Notably, if Freya interacts with the crying mannequin girl in the bathroom, she murmurs, suggesting her involvement in Helen's story. Freya solves puzzles involving basketball scores and metronomes to get the key. Freya revives Roman. He's confused, noting he recognizes the other locations, but not this school. He deduces it must be Freya's school and asks if she knew Helen. Freya confirms, then blurts out,
I killed her. I think. Wish I hadn't said that.
before quickly changing the subject and heading towards a portal. Roman follows. Roman emerges into a maze-like ruin but loses Freya. He finds a model of his old train, commenting, after meeting Jill, I guess I know why I am here. He eventually finds Freya and a key. They unlock a door. Freya enters the darkness, but the door falls on Roman, transitioning us back to Carlos. We see Carlos again in the police station, marking another tally on a crowded board, suggesting time passes for him too here. He's now talking to mannequins arranged in the meeting room as if they're colleagues. His journal reveals Hysterian numbers and a drawing of a monster named Henry. He expresses bitterness about his treatment at the station and notes the station is trying to trap him. Context from audio tapes found in the game gives insight into Carlos's twisted perspective regarding the individual he torments. Understood to be Roman and strongly implied to be linked with the monster's figure, Henry, that Carlos confronts elsewhere. In the tapes, Carlos discusses dealing with this person who, like himself, is strangely immune to the gloom, but whom Carlos judges as undeserving, citing Roman's past, messed up things, particularly involving girls, referring to this individual as an emotionalist freak without remorse. Carlos admits using him as a perfect test subject. He repeatedly torments this person, partly for justice, partly to understand the limits of our messed up existence, and chillingly because he enjoys the process. Carlos notes with fascination how the holding room changes to reflect this person's fears and actions, all while wanting to see how many deaths it takes before they are completely consumed by the gloom. After solving puzzles using the Hysterian numbers and police medals to get a gun and bullets, Carlos enters the room marked with the red eye symbol. Inside is presumably the monster Henry.
Good morning. You look worse. I don't think you're in there anymore. But I hope you are. Again? Again. Again. Tomorrow.
Confirming his own repeating cycle of torment. The screen fades to black, and we're back as Roman near the original subway portal. As he heads towards the original exit goal, Jill confronts him one last time. Now more decayed, Roman pleads, saying he just wants out, like her. Jill refuses, seeking revenge and mentioning Carlos warned her time was short and she needed to open his flesh now. Roman realizes Carlos is the pale man. Roman defeats Jill, who curses him as a monster. He reaches an ancient-looking door where Carlos waits. Carlos admits manipulating Jill and confirms he might return but diminished, highlighting the gloom's decay. He calls the door a threshold he can't cross and advises Roman to seek the king. Roman takes the train again, arriving at a ruined temple. There, he reunites with Freya. After solving final puzzles involving pins in an ancient mask, they meet the king. The king confirms his ancient origins, a lord from a forgotten, drowned kingdom, and explains the final exit. Two must cross together, unburdened by their guilt, possible only if forgiven in someone else's eyes. He cannot leave due to his own ancient hubris, but can aid others. Roman thanks the king. He and Freya board the train to leave towards the final exit. Here, the game's ending diverges based on a past interaction with a spider creature in the subway. The choice determines the final confrontation and the concluding tone. If the player deals with the spider quickly earlier in the game, an entity called the Abomination appears as a final boss. After defeating it, Roman and Freya proceed towards the final gate and walk towards the light. However, before they fully enter, the scene cuts to black, and an unknown voice cryptically says,
Roman. Roman. It's time.
This outcome, ending A, leaves Roman's fate unresolved, functioning as a cliffhanger. Alternatively, if the player did not kill the subway spider, events unfold differently. The spider creature reappears during the final sequence and assists Roman by destroying the Abomination after Roman solves a related puzzle. This path leads to ending B, which offers more emotional closure. In this version, before stepping into the light, Roman and Freya share a heartfelt confession. Roman admits his guilt regarding the past incident that likely triggered his arrival in the gloom, expressing deep remorse for the deaths caused by his moment of darkness and desire for an ending. Freya, in turn, confesses her own guilt regarding her friend Helen, admitting she failed to intervene or speak up and someone else hurt her. They acknowledge each other's pains and believe, "I believe you too." Freya asks if they should hold hands. They do. Roman thanks her, and together they step into the white light. Okay, so deep breaths. That was a heavy, complex story we just walked through. Post-trauma, much like the classics is inspired by, isn't just about jump scares or monsters. It's digging deep into the human psyche. So, what are the core ideas bubbling under the surface of the gloom? First and foremost is the theme of trauma and the gloom itself. The summary explicitly states the gloom is a twisted reflection of Roman's psyche, born from a severe panic attack. It seems the entire dimension acts as a manifestation of unresolved trauma, perhaps not just Romans, but others as well. The grotesque creatures, decaying environments, and fleshy overgrowth all feel symbolic of the inner turmoil, regrets, and fears made terrifyingly real. The choice of location, a subway, hospital, a school, are also places often associated with traumatic events or intense emotional stress, reinforcing this connection. Tied closely to this is the overwhelming sense of guilt and responsibility. This weighs heavily on Roman, specifically after his confrontation with Jill, where he's forced to acknowledge blood on his hands. It strongly suggests his past actions, possibly related to Jill's sister, or the train incident hinted at the nurse's email, are the root cause of this entrapment. Freya isn't immune either, carrying her own guilt over Helen's death, admitting she was part of it and failed to speak up. The game constantly seems to ask what happens when the consequences of our actions become inescapable. The structure of the game also emphasizes cycles and purgatory. Both Roman's journey, filled with its ambiguous endings and returns to familiar locations, and Carlos's explicitly repeating ritual of marking tallies and executing Henry, suggests the gloom functions as a kind of purgatory. Characters appear trapped in loops reflecting their trauma. Jill decays with each encounter. Carlos seems locked in a cycle of vengeance. It paints the gloom as a place where progress is difficult and true escape might require breaking these ingrained patterns. However, the game does offer a potential path through forgiveness and escape, primarily highlighted in Ending B. The king explains that escape requires two souls, unburdened who achieve forgiveness in someone else's eyes. Ending B showcases this beautifully. Roman confesses his deep remorse, and Freya confesses her own guilt and inaction. Their mutual belief and acceptance of each other's sorrow, "I believe in you too," seems to fulfill the king's requirements, allowing them to potentially pass beyond the gloom together. That suggests empathy and forgiveness are the keys to healing and breaking the cycle. The king's own inability to leave due to his hubris further underscores this theme. Finally, the game heavily relies on ambiguity and interpretation. As noted in the summary, much is intentionally left unclear. What exactly did Roman do? Who is Carlos beyond Roman's tormentor? What truly happens after ending A? Post-trauma trusts the player to connect the dots, interpret the symbolism, and find their own meaning within the unsettling narrative, making personal reflection a core part of the experience. So, to quickly recap Roman's harrowing journey, he awakens in a nightmarish gloom within a subway station, haunted by his past and a strange figure named Carlos. His path takes him through a disturbing hospital where he confronts the vengeful spirit of Jill and the reality of his guilt. Then into a surreal school reflecting the trauma of a young girl named Freya, whom he partners with. After navigating ancient ruins and witnessing Carlos's own clinical torment, Roman faces Jill one last time, before learning from an ancient king that mutual forgiveness is the only way out. Depending on past actions, he and Freya either step forwards an ambiguous future or find closure together through shared confession. Ultimately, Post-Trauma uses its survival horror framework to explore the profound and lasting impact of trauma, the crushing weight of guilt, and the journey toward acceptance or forgiveness. It's a descent into the mind's darkest corners, leaving us to ponder the nature of healing and whether escape from our inner demons is ever truly complete. What did you think of Post-Trauma's story? Which ending did you get? And what are your theories about the gloom, Carlos, and Roman's ultimate fate? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And if you found this breakdown helpful or interesting, please give the video a like, subscribe for more story explain videos like this one, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss the next video. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next one.